James, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then it says in the second verse, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. There is a theory out there called the Genesis gap theory. This is a theory that literally shoehorns billions of years in between these two verses. I don't personally believe that it's a legit theory. I don't buy it. I don't believe the Genesis gap theory is true. The Genesis gap theory, in a nutshell, is this. They say, look, in the first verse, it says that God already created the heavens and the earth. And so then they add a lot of stuff to it. They put a lot of other things in there. Like they say, well, God wouldn't create anything that's undone or not fully complete. If he actually created it, then it would be perfect and it would be good and it would be full of life and the presence of God and all that kind of stuff. But what happened after that, in verse 2, it says the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. So what they do is they assume, they read between the lines things that I don't think that anybody should do. They say, oh, well, there must have been another creation, and that creation somehow destroyed itself. And so God had to recreate. So he had to start from square one, basically, in verse 2, where it says the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's good to wedge billions of years in between two verses when it doesn't tell us this. And I will demonstrate this over the next few days. The book of Genesis, especially the first few chapters, it's written in a very unique style. And the author uses a method here that's not typically chronological. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 is just like a title, basically. This is the title of the chapter, so to speak. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then the rest of the chapter tells us how he created the heavens and the earth, like how it transpired. How did that unfold? And we know that in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, we'll get to that a little bit later tonight, it talks about the creation of quote unquote man, the creation of human beings. And again, in Genesis chapter 2, it talks again about the creation of human beings. And again, I know some people, they get their minds so stuck in these chronological ruts. They can't think beyond the rut that they're in. So some people think that God created the heavens and the earth in verse 1, and then that was a whole new creation, and that creation produced all of these beings like we have, like the angels or the demons that we have. And then billions of years go by, and inhabitants of earth back in those days destroyed the earth, and then God started again in verse 2. And then he created man on day 6, and then in Genesis chapter 2, he creates another man, Adam. I don't buy that theory either, because I do believe that the writing style here of the author of the book of Genesis is such as the author makes a statement, unpacks that statement, and then he zooms in, if you will, on one of the things that God created, especially man, and he unpacked that in Genesis chapter 2. So it's all talking about